Yo, what's up everybody? I'm Sion. We got Ian, Kyle, the Zoa guys. We're here to do a rig rundown. So I'm going to start over here, now that I've got a much better camera to work with. This is my Ableton / guitar rig here. I'm going to start with the Ableton setup. I've got a MacBook. I'm just running Ableton out of it. That is hooked up to the Ableton push. So basically what I use the push for is either soloing on this basically a keyboard here. It maps to any soft synth in the software, as well as occasionally launching scenes from the session arrange view. So back here I've got my audio interface. It's just a complete audio that's sending out my audio to the mixing board. And right here I've got a MIDI interface. That MIDI interface is sending MIDI over to Ian's pedal board system over there via that cable, as well as my pedal board system over here. And occasionally we have the Octopad hooked up in this space over here. If we do, occasionally we'll use the MIDI outputs for that. As far as the MIDI outputs, that'll go down here to my guitar board, my pedal board, which has a few MIDI capable pedals. Before I get into that, I'll describe this foot pedal real quick. It's basically an expression pedal, or a sustain pedal, excuse me, for like an electronic keyboard, MIDI keyboard or something like that. But I've rigged it up. I've got a cable that runs behind it and up into my push, and I've had to download some like third-party programs and tweak my software a little bit. But basically when I stomp this expression pedal or sustain pedal, what it does is it sends a signal to the Ableton push, which then sends it to the software, and I've set it up so that it'll launch the next scene. So if we're playing in a song and I want to go to the next scene, but I don't want to take my hands off the guitar to touch the Ableton push, I simply press down on that pedal and it'll launch the next scene in Ableton. So basically, as far as the pedal board, we've got mostly analog pedals here. We've got some MIDI capability. My signal path is as follows. I go into the Ego compressor here. From there it runs into my MXR 10-band EQ, and from there it runs into my exotic wah. Can't recommend these enough. This is my favorite wah pedal. Got a little indicator light and everything, because you want to know when that thing's on. So from there it basically goes into this loop switcher that I have here, the Patch Commander. The Patch Commander, you can set these up as banks, but I've only got 4 different loops, so I don't use the banks. My first loop is my drive. So for those of you that don't really know right off the bat what a loop switcher is, the signal path comes in here, and for each one of these loops it sends out a loop and then comes back into the board, and the signal path goes on to the next loop. So my first loop, I've got, I guess to back up real quick, I've got a 6-shooter courtesy of Ian. Thanks, buddy. It's a great little tuner. It's super tiny, fits on your board very easily. So for my drive loop, I have the first drive loop anyways, I have a SL drive, also made by Exotic. Great tone. This is my basically go-to drive pedal. I play quite a bit of my material in this tone. Every now and again I've got to crank on the boost, but not too often. It's pretty rare that I crank that on and it gets a little overdrivey, so typically that stays off. Moving on to my second loop here. Second loop is just the rat, so I leave the rat on all the time, and when I want to punch it in, crank on loop number 2, the rat's in the loop. Every now and again I'll run 1 and 2 at the same time, but not usually. That also gets pretty gain intensive. Loop 3 goes to the harmonist, the Boss PS6. This is a sweet little pedal. It'll even do a three voice harmony in some settings. You basically just set your harmony and your key, major, minor, etc. So I leave this thing on all the time and then punch it in and out with loop 3. Loop 4 goes to my Mooger Fooger phaser. This thing is badass. They don't actually make them anymore. It's just got a real nice phase to it. I leave that guy on all the time as well. Punch him in and out with loop 4. So after it leaves this patch commander, I believe first it goes to my Boss DD500. This is a really great delay pedal, super tweakable, lots of presets, but most importantly, it's MIDI syncable, which is the most important factor for me. So basically, when my Ableton is outputting a certain tempo, it will automatically adjust to that tempo. Right now you see it's at 90, so it just jumped to 100 because I launched a different track, so it automatically adjusts the tempo to the master MIDI clock that Ableton is outputting. After that, it goes to my Omni. This is pretty new, Omni Reverb delay. I believe this is made by Keeley. Pretty basic but nice sounding delay, super cheap on Sweetwater. And this pedal is brand fucking new. I just put it on my board like 5 minutes ago. It is called the 1440 Electro Harmonics Looper. This is also MIDI syncable. Basically, I have a MIDI output going from my MIDI interface I showed you previously to the DD500. From the DD500, it daisy chains out the back of that, and it goes to the input of the EHX 1440, aptly named for the 1440 seconds of available memory on it. So it's pretty sweet. I haven't really used it yet, but the main function of it is that it is MIDI synced as well, or quantized if you will. So you'll see that light start blinking as soon as I start my MIDI clock, and it'll blink with the other light on the downbeat. So I can start recording my loop anytime within those 4 beats, and it won't start recording till the next downbeat of the next bar, which is super nice for basically what I'm doing with a master MIDI clock and everything. So it's an essential pedal. Just replaced my Pictronics Infinity Looper, which was a bummer to lose that, but I'm thinking this is going to be a great replacement. Over here I am playing a PRS Custom SE Tobacco Sunburst, I believe, and I've got a Fender Super Twin over here. Those are just stock pickups. I want to replace them soon. I haven't gotten around to that yet. Playing out of this Fender Super Twin, great amp, super heavy, but it has tons of headroom, nice crystal clean tone, great for pedal platform. So alright, that kind of took a long time, but that's my rig. Here's Ian's rig. What's up, Ian?
Hey!
Oh yeah, by the way, studio is all nice and pretty now.
Yeah, it's all sweet stuff.
Yep, anyways.
You did a good job.
Thanks. You ready? You want me to hold this for you?
Sure, that'd be great.
Alright, man. Where do you want to start?
Alright, let's start with this thing, actually.
Alright.
The Korg Monologue is a monophonic analog synthesizer with a lot of cool stuff on it. It's got a sequencer, and you can record automation on it, sort of, with the sequencer, and it's seriously fun. Like, I would recommend it to anybody who's interested in sound design. And so the output of that goes over into this delay pedal, because that's the one feature that this thing doesn't have that I would really like it to have, is a delay. Then it runs out to a DI box.
Who makes the delay pedals? Is it Earthquaker?
It's J-Rocket Audio.
Oh.
J-Rocket Audio Designs.
Oh, okay.
Immortal Echo. And it's a pretty basic delay. What I really like about it is that it'll self-oscillate without getting super crazy loud, which is fun. And then to the DI box where it splits and goes to the board, and this goes over to the line input on my amp stack, which is an Ampeg BA210 combo with a carbon 18-inch extension cab with a Celestian something or other driver in it. I can't remember exactly, but I did replace the driver, and it definitely kicks. It's pretty awesome. And let's see, let's go to the board.
Hey, I'll come over here so they can see it from this angle.
Okay. So I have, in contrast to Xeons, I have mostly digital pedals, I think. But still a few analog ones. So first, the bass goes to the compressor, which is Earthquaker Devices Warden, which is an optical compressor. It's really nice. I really like it. And then it goes to the volume pedal, which is made by Boss. I like it pretty good. It's smaller than the, what was it? I think it was an Electro Harmonics one I had before.
Yeah.
Or no, it was Ernie Ball. That's what it was. And then from here, it goes all the way over here to the bass preamp pedal, which is a 2-channel, tube-based preamp. And the cool thing I really like about this is that you can run both the channels in parallel, which is what I'm doing here. You can see like these turn it to one channel or the other, but I always like to have it on both and blend them with the snub. And like one of them is a little bit brighter and grittier, and the other one is darker and smooth, so I can get the bass and the highs as well. And then out of the effects loop of this, we come over here to the Boss SY300 guitar synthesizer, which is super cool. I'm arguably underutilizing it. But
I think most people are underutilizing this particular pedal.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mostly use it for subs, like sub-octave sort of things. And what I really like about it is that it has all this connectivity up at the top. It has MIDI, and then it has 2 stereo outs.
You're certainly not underutilizing the connectivity.
No, that's my favorite part of it, is that, so like, I have this button programmed to turn the effects loop on and off, and in the effects loop of this thing, I have the Source Audio Soundblocks Pro Multi-Wave Bass Distortion and the Source Audio Soundblocks Pro Bass Envelope Filter, which are both discontinued, unfortunately. I might have to end up replacing them with their newer versions at some point. But I really like these things. This is like where I get my signature sound, really, which is like the dubstep wobble guitar stuff. And how it works really is this distortion is a digital distortion, and this expression pedal right here, which is also made by Source Audio, I have it hooked up to that. See the LED changes color? It's morphing between 2 different presets, and the way it does it, is kind of like a wavetable in its sound. It like sweeps through it in a similar way to a wavetable. And then also controlled by this, I have the bass envelope filter, which I'm not using an envelope on that particular dubsteppy sound. I'm just controlling the filter cutoff with this, while also sweeping through the distortion presets. So that's where you get that. And I run that in parallel with this thing. That's why it's in the effects loop, so that it can be mixed in parallel with the sub. So the sub doesn't end up going through the distortion or the filter. It's just a clean sine wave. So then out of here, oh, and I should mention I do have a second set of outs on here that I haven't been experimenting a little bit with like some of the synthier sounds on this, and I have it routed to this DI box underneath, which you can't probably see. It's like right there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to see that.
We don't have it hooked up to the board at the moment, but
Oh, is that your stereo outs?
yeah, that's the stereo outs. And then the regular out goes out of there into the Maris Autobit.
Yeah, things don't.
Their Autobit Junior, which is a sequenced bit crusher. And so what that means is that it's a bit crusher with a 6-step sequencer, and you can assign the sequencer to the sample rate. I think you can assign it to the filter as well, and I think also to the pitch. And it also has an interesting stutter effect, which I haven't been using all that much lately. I've mostly been using the bit crusher and the filter on it. I also control it with this thing. And yeah, I'll have to flip the board upside down to show you how I have this thing hooked up in a second. Then after that, we go to the Alexander Pedals Sky 5000, which is a gorgeous delay verb that has like an octave up delay, octave up reverb, octave down reverb, and 3 delay settings also, which are really great. And then down here to one of the analog pedals, this is a Dreadbox Como Rebi, which is a chorus or a flanger depending on how you have it set. It's a really interesting one. It has these modular, it doesn't have MIDI, but it has these modular synth hookups right here. So if I were to get one of my little modular rigs involved out here, I might end up hooking that up.
Nice.
And then after that, we go to my looper pedal, which is pretty new, which is the Chase Bliss Blooper. And this thing it's pretty interesting. It can do a lot of different things. Mostly I really just need it to be a regular looper. So I'm still kind of figuring that out. It's a very complicated little device, but we'll get there. And then we go back from there, back into the effects loop of this thing, and then out the DI out to the board, and out the instrument out to the amplifier.
Boom.
So I'll give you a quick rundown of the MIDI chain as well. So the MIDI cable
Comes from the interface.
Yeah, it comes from Sion's setup, goes to the monologue, goes down here to the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller, which is this thing that I didn't talk about because it's not actually part of the audio signal chain, which controls all the MIDI capable pedals. But yeah, and I have 2 pages of presets on there for various songs and stuff. But then it comes out of there into the Boss SY300, and then this is where it gets complicated. You might need to turn on like a light or something.
Let's see. Oh, I mean, you can see.
Okay.
You can see that it's complicated.
So from there, it goes to this thing, this Empress MIDI box.
Here, hang on. I'll turn on my light here.
Okay. So then it goes to this thing, the Empress MIDI box, which basically there's a couple pedals on my board that take MIDI over 1/4-inch cables, which is like a new standard that people are implementing. So they go to the Blooper, the Autobit, and the Sky 5000. And then come out the MIDI through to this thing, which is the MIDI Solutions power adapter, which just boosts the MIDI signal so that when it goes to this thing, hidden deep within here, which is just a MIDI splitter, that after it's, so that this thing boosts it so that after this splits the signal, both signals are still loud enough to be read by these 2 pedals. And then, so the expression pedal is hooked up to this thing, which is the Mission Engineering Expressionator, which just basically splits the expression signal. So that expression pedal has 2 outs. So one of those outs goes to
the Boss SY300, and the other one goes to here where it splits it, and these outputs go to these two pedals. So yeah.
Nice. That's it, huh?
That's it.
All right.
That's all? The whole thing.
That's it. I thought mine was long and convoluted. I knew his would be worse though. All
I
right.
got effects loops in the effects
Worse
loops.
or
What
better?
about your guitar?
However, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where's your?
forgot about the bass guitar.
Forgot about the most important part.
So this is my bass guitar. It is a old PV grind, and I swapped the pickups out for Bartolini's. And this little arcade button here is a kill switch, which is super fun with the filter and distortion and the bit crusher. So yeah, and check out Colfax Guitar Shop. They're always the ones that work on my guitars.
Nice plug. Nice plug. All right. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, I know you guys all retain all of that, so we're gonna move on.
We're
to
gonna
that.
need it for this next
We're
section.
gonna move on to the more straightforward part of the room. It's all analog over here. There's no electronics going on outside the mics and the mixer, but there's sometimes an octo pad right here, a sampling drum pad that I can trigger, some noises that I've chosen to intersperse throughout the play. That's not set up right now, so I'll just run through drums and everything I've got going on here. So, my drum kit itself, I should say, is a Mapex Armory. The Magna Red, if you can see it, it's like this awesome chrome, red, shiny, 80s sequin looking color. It's an awesome shell kit. These drums are really, really loud. That's why I got them. Because what the hell is the fun of drums if they can't be loud as hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to those loud ass drums, the heads that I'm using on the toms they're called black chrome. You don't see a lot of these around. These heads are super duper thick. No matter how hard you try to keep them in these drums, you will not be able to puncture them, damage them at all. They are rock solid. That makes them really kind of deep, and they sound like cannons when you hit them. But they have a lot of intonation. They're just kind of a little bit more hard to tune, but you can get them sounding really, really awesome. This snare drum is relatively new. I've had it for about a year. This did not come with the kit. This is something that I had to get separately. This is a Sledgehammer. This thing is awesome. You can see this nice brass finish on the outside. It's a lot deeper than your traditional rock and roll snare drum will be. So that thing will have a lot of just deep, powerful body to it. And in addition to that, I actually use this big fat snare drum ring. It kind of dampens the sound and keeps it more controlled and centered. You can hear the difference. You hear a lot more resonance there, and if I do this, it's a lot more controlled. Makes a lot of difference in the recording studio. I'm a Remo guy, or not Remo guy, an Evans guy, but on the snare drum, I actually am using the Remo Power Stroke. This is a kind of it's all made to kind of just make that snare just deep, powerful, cut through everything, and be the most articulated part of the entire sound. So going to the bass drum, I have an Evans EMAD Heavyweight. This thing's a beast. It's actually made with two different heads that are kind of just stuck together. So I used to put holes in my kick drum, and I had to switch because I was hitting them too hard to something that could withstand that kind of a beating. So this thing is, like the rest of it, made to play loud, powerful, beastly notes. Moving on, cymbals. So I'm recently a Meinl guy. These are the best cymbals I've ever owned. I used to strictly be Zildjian. That was more when I was a beginner. Meinl, these are hand-hammered, all of them. With hand-hammered cymbals, they're different than non-hammered cymbals, where the sound from a cymbal, when you hit it, travels down the surface and off. And as the sound travels down, it is disrupted by these little holes that are handmade, and it kind of spreads out the sound, makes it more washy and less kind of notated. I want my cymbals to kind of create like an ambiance rather than like a direct like pitch or a note, if you want to think about it like that. So this is a 16-inch. This is a dark hand hammer crash. This is actually the smallest crash cymbal on my kit. It won't cut through the mix as well. It is kind of like a standalone cymbal that I would use with not a lot of sound going on, maybe during like a verse or something where the focus would be on the guitar melody. Moving on, this one is a 18-inch extra thin hammer crash. This is the Thunder Butter. This is the greatest cymbal ever made. This thing is just amazing.
The Thunder Butter.
Oh yeah. When I hit it, you just look at it and kind of smile. It's beautiful. And you can see all those little hammer marks. Yep, all these are Meinl Byzance series. Really recommend these for any drummers out there looking to upgrade their cymbal game. Going on, this is the ride cymbal I've been using, my main ride cymbal, a transition ride, 21-inch, also Byzance. This thing I like it for some things. It's not actually my favorite ride that I've ever had, but it's serviceable for what I like to do right now. It doesn't have a whole lot of variation that I want. The bell isn't as big as I'd like it to be, but it does the job. This is why I actually got this guy. This is the second ride. I was looking to replace this ride, and I got this one, and I realized that I wanted to use both of them. So I just threw both of them on. I kind of treat this one like a crash cymbal. It's actually a 22-inch Bliss crash ride, Dark Matter, from Dream. This is a relatively new cymbal company that I don't really know anything about, but I kind of got in the store and I checked it out and I fell in love with it. This thing's awesome. It's a relatively thin ride cymbal. You get a lot more of the crash overtones. I use it as a crash cymbal, but you can ride on it as well. The bell is better. The bell is really great. It's kind of just hard to kind of reach up and get it, but it's great. Use them in tandem together, and they're good together. Hats, also Byzance, extra dry, medium thin hi-hats. These are your standard size. I believe they're 14. Yeah, it's 14 inches. These things are awesome. They're like, if you want hi-hat definition rather than volume, this is what I would go with. These kind of have more of a, they kind of sit under the mix rather than just be on top of it, more like an egg shaker. Think of like a shaker, like, and you can intonate as much as you want with them. They're really nice. They don't overwhelm. They're really easy to play. The articulation, you can bounce off them really easy. This guy, Byzance as well. All of these are Byzance. I'm being pretty loyal to the Meinl company these days. These things are awesome. This is a dual china. The reason why they call it a dual is because it's actually made of two different alloys. So you have your regular kind of hand hammered, just like your traditional cymbal alloy here, and then you have your dark kind of weathered alloy in the middle. Creates like a, I guess, a combination of tones, I guess. Yep. I tried a bunch of these cymbals, and this is just the one that stuck out. This thing is awesome. I don't know what chinas really are. They have a different shape than the rest of the cymbals. As you can see, it kind of concave in the middle and then kind of convexes out on the outsides. This is a really different sound than a crash cymbal would be. It's made to not really resonate as long, but it's made to just punch right through with kind of like a tsh. You can hear it. Call it a china. Kind of sounds like a little mini gong. Essential for pretty much any drum kit.
Yes.
These guys, the little ones, these are splash cymbals. Both of them are Byzance Meinl as well. They're both 10 inches. I've had a plethora of different splash cymbals in my life, and I've had ones that are 4 inches, I've had them that are 6, I've had them that are 8. These 10 inches are, I maintain, are the best splash cymbals you can buy. I typically like them. They have a lot more definition to their sound. This one is the same as the China. It's dual, so it has, you can see, has the two different cymbal alloys in the middle. This is like gonna have like a sanded vintage style finish on it. I use them a lot in tandem. I use them together to kind of like oppose each other almost. You can hear the difference. So they're great to use in like, if you want like a quick little fill that's not gonna step on any of the other music, just real quick, you can use these two and it just sounds awesome. Last cymbal. This weird looking guy over here. This is a trash can lid. This is my stack. I made this. This is what you do with broken cymbals. They're not trash. You can just turn them into a stack and you can just... I like to ride on this guy for some kind of like metal breakdowns if you want to do that. This is not going to echo at all. It's not going to resonate at all, but it's going to cut through everything and you're going to hear it, and it's great for just slow, defined. I use it all the time. That's why I put it right here like the ride cymbal usually is. This is made of old broken cymbals. This one's a Sabian 16-inch on the bottom, HHX I believe. And this is a Paiste PSTX Swiss cheese cymbal. They call them, what do they call them? The ones with the holes, the effect crash or something like that.
Swiss cheese sounds good to me.
Yeah,
That makes
Swiss
sense.
cheese. They break real easy. This is a super cheap cymbal. I got it for like $100. It barely lasted like a few months the way I was hitting it. So pedals, I use the Tama Iron Cobras. These are the pedals that I took drum lessons on as a kid. My teacher had them and I fucking love them. They're beasts. They are heavy duty and they have double chain. They go really fast, articulate. They're awesome. I never have any problems with them, except for not being able to play them as well as I want to. So. Sticks, I use Pro Mark 5As. 5As is like your standard kind of size for a drumstick. I kind of keep it right there in the middle. These kind of have like a little polymer on the outside, like a grip almost. They're black. I just think black sticks look cooler. They're also easier to find when I go to the store and there's 10,000 sticks there and they all look the same until you pull them out of a little slot. Last thing, Gibraltar drum rack. This is a big move if you're a drummer. You could do all stands or you could do the rack. The rack has its advantages. It also has its disadvantages. Its disadvantages being it's just
Its size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Size. If you don't mind taking it apart and fine tuning it back to the way you like it every time, it gives you a lot more options on how you want to set up your kit. That's kind of why I like it, because it's a little different every time, but that's a good thing. Every time I get a little bit better at setting it up and taking it down and everything. Basically, you put the rack, it comes in 3 segments. I'm only using 2 right now. There's another one that I can put over here if I want, and I can hang more cymbals. This just makes it so you don't have to buy all new stands and have to put all new stands all over the ground. You can just move this one big piece. So all the cymbals are connected to clamps that are connected to these towers connected to the rack. So all these cymbals, every single one, except for the hi-hats, is supported by this rack, as are these 2 toms. So the only things actually sitting on the ground are the hi-hat, the bass drum, snare drum, these 2 floor toms, and the rack itself. That's it. It makes it easier to move the kick drum around if you want to do that. I just did that before because it was kind of a little skiwampus from the way I like it.
Oh, as opposed to having the toms mounted to the kick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Traditional drum kits will either have them mounted to the kick, depending on what make you use, or they will be connected to one of your cymbal stands, and they will just kind of hang over where you want them. So as you can see, all these drums are mic'd up. These are actually brand new today, these tom mics. I haven't even given them a try yet.
Brand new.
Got one on the snare, we got these overheads. So I play with in-ear monitors. I can hear all of my drums the way that they're meant to be heard. It really makes a difference in the writing process and in practicing, because if you can't hear what you're playing, then how do you know what to play?
Yeah.
So I run it all through this mixer here. I can EQ the levels of the bass and the synths and the guitar and everything. And it makes jam sessions a lot more fun.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I guess that's a good segue to the last section I was going to do, if you're good.
Yeah.
All right, just real quick, just going to show you, this is our super excessive mixer board that we've now added a submixer to. But we mic everything in the room, we run it to the mixer. Ian, our audio engineer, will mix it for us. And from there, as Kyle just mentioned, we split it into two separate signals. One's hardlined to his mixer, and the other is hardlined to a wireless mixer for me and Ian. The purpose being that this cable right here is run from Ableton, and it provides the tempo click for Kyle so that he can stay in time with the Ableton backing tracks, and then the separate channel is run to the in-ear monitors and not mixed with the click so that me and Ian don't have to hear it while we're performing. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. You guys want to tell them about our show we got coming up?
It's our first gig in a really long time.
Yeah. When is it again?
It's July 3rd
July 3rd.
Okay.
at New Conscious.
Yeah.
That's a super sweet venue.
We're opening for a band called Squeaky Feet. They're pretty kick-ass.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
come on out. There's info on our socials, how to get tickets. So hope to see you guys there.
Definitely check that out because it's a bit of a process to get them.
Yeah, you got to sign up for membership, but there's free beer.
Free beer!
All right.
We should have led with that.
The open,
Yeah.
the open bar is dope.
Yes,
It really is.
You still got a tip though.
that's right.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously.
Well, if you got a tip, it's not free. It's free as far as.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're like respectable people, you know.
All
course
right,
we are.
it's
That's
getting a
what
little
we're
too nitty gritty into the practice sessions. Thanks, guys. Thanks for
What's up,
watching.
guys?
Peace.